The film begins in 1914, and Professor Bay and his student Billy find him in the ruins of the Pharaonic temple in Egypt. Bay on his face discovers an old prophecy and explains the books on the walls. The books talk about a great evil that will come after 5,000 years. It will come out of a black hole and cause chaos and death. The only thing that can stop it is a weapon made up of the four elements: water, fire, earth and air. And they make the fifth element, which is a complete creature. Bay is convinced that the fifth element is the key, but he can't know his identity at this moment. A priest from a secret association approaches the two men and offers them a drink of water with a name to celebrate their success. Bay throws the water and insists that they drink alcohol only instead of water. Suddenly a huge spaceship lands on the pyramid. The robot, but he arrived at the right time. The alien race known as the mice, and he discovers that the priest was in contact with them from the earth, and he says that they must take the stones and the fifth element because the war is coming and there is no security on earth. The leader takes out the key and opens the lock. This strange series of events makes Bay suffocate. And the priest can't do anything but watch the mice in, and they take the four stones and the coffin that contained the fifth element. Billy goes up and sets fire to space creatures because he thinks they killed Bay. The priest tries to stop him, but he is gone and the wall is closed on the Mason leader. The alien gives the priest the key and tells him about his last mission, and when the ship flies, the priest promises that he will transfer this knowledge until he returns, and 300 years pass on Earth. And now the year is 2214, and this is the year of prophecy. The great evil appears in the form of a huge ball of fire heading towards the planet Earth, a military ship on the Earth. A direct call with the president is monitored by this threat, and they are on the verge of hitting the ball of fire. A priest named Cornelius from the secret society intervenes. He insists that hitting this threat has no use and that the only thing that can save humanity related to a great prophecy about the four elements and the fifth element. The president rejects his theory and orders a strike immediately on the strange body. The ball of fire shoots missiles and returns it to the ship and destroys it immediately. On the ground, he is a former soldier who fired his wife. He works as a taxi driver and now he lives in a narrow apartment with his cat. His close friend Vinger calls him and plans to meet him at night. Kieran passes on a normal day and holds on to Haremy and takes his taxi his first trip today. In the head, Mr. Cornelius explained his theory in detail and convinced the president to allow the Masons who move the elements to enter their lands on their way to Earth. The Masons attack a group of alien creatures called the Masons, which are called the Masons. The Mangalore, which takes the box that contains the elements. The Mangalore is connected to John Baptist Emmanuel George, who works for the great good of evil, and they agree to meet in his factory. The government visits the site of the accident and it succeeds in retrieving a living hand from the Mason, and they take it to the research lab. And in the retrieval room, scientists rebuild the nuclear acid to the hand and return it to life, and after the process of rebuilding quickly the room discovers that room reveals that Mrs. Ariana is sleeping on the table. The woman wakes up and is shocked when she finds herself trapped inside the glass room, screaming in an old language. One of the generals approaches her, taps the glass and screams from it. The woman breaks the glass and hits the general. She takes her entry card and frees herself from the bells ring, and she finds herself locked in the room. She looks for the only way out, breaks the walls and runs away through the ventilation system. After a while, she finds herself on the building and jumps to escape from the police. She falls on the back of a taxi. The police car is not a car, but a car that is 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 a fire, and the police car is hit by fire. The police car is hit by fire, and the police car is hit by fire. The police car is hit by fire, and he does not want to waste time, so he comes to get David's help and prepares him to find the fifth element. At this time, Corinne looks at the sleeping woman and looks at her, but she faces him with her weapon, apologizes and threatens her, and discovers that her name is Lilo Cornelius, and David come with them to the key of the door and takes Corinne out. Karan goes to his apartment and calls Wenger. He apologizes that he could not meet him and tell him about Lilo. At that time, Lilo learns 5,000 years of history through the computer of Cornelius. And you tell him that the stones were stolen, but she knows exactly where they are. At the same time, Zorg meets the Mangalore and their leader, Anut. Zorg changes the stones into new weapons. But when Anut opens the chest, he finds it empty. Cornelius later discovers that the men of the church were very angry with him, and they were very angry with him, and the president agrees to ask the army to hire the best client they have, who is Karan Dallas. The soldiers succeed in determining where Karan is in his will. Karan discovers that the army is playing in the ranks to win 2 tickets to Fluston Paradise, and allow him to sneak in and steal the stones secretly. At this moment, Lelu appears outside his door, and Karan convinces the soldiers to go to the front door and take the stones. The soldiers go to the front door, and Karan goes to the back door, and he says that Lilo is his fiancée who plans to marry her but hates the army. Lilo enters and Cornelius threatens him with a gun and asks for a ticket. At this moment the police go around the building and look for Karan. Lilo and the priest hide in his room and the police catch the wrong man. The Mangalore arrives and gives him a ticket. At this moment, the police go around the building and look for Karan. He hides Lilo and the priest in his room and the police catch the man who made a mistake. The Mangalore arrive and object to the arrest. And they take the body bag without knowing that they took the wrong person too. As soon as the area disappeared, Karan takes Lilo and Cornelius from the hideout. And the priest. He hits Karan and makes him lose consciousness for a moment and steals the tickets. When Karan gets up, he accepts the mission. Lilo and Cornelius arrive at the airport with David, who succeeded in getting a ticket for a plane trip. They are on the way to register for entry, and Karan arrives and takes David's place. David runs to Cornelius and tells him what happened. The priest gives him instructions with the key to prepare the temple and he goes after the other two. The Mangalore arrive, suspicious that they are Karan and Lilo, but the security quickly discovers them. The two men go to the after a while, the plane flies. At that time, George is called by Mr. Shadow, the dark entity that exists in the Great Evil. Mr. Shadow threatens George to bring the stones, or he will destroy it. On the planet of Philistin, the rocket reaches the hotel, and Karan runs and finds Lilo missing. Lilo succeeded in tracking down Blavatsky. The famous singer feels that Lilo is hiding in the hallway and sends one of her assistants to her. The assistant tells Lilo to meet with Lavalagana after the party. At this time, Karan withdraws from Ruby, who gives him a tour of the hotel, and then goes to the opera house. He talks directly in the live broadcast program. Without anyone knowing, the Mangalore is hiding in the place, and Zorg is approaching the hotel. The party begins, and the Setirs discover that Lavalagana, the opera singer, is a space creature with a blue skin. The last one is a monster in them. When the diva finishes her song, Lilo takes the box, but at the door Zorg stands with his weapon and he asks to return the stones. Lilo throws the box and goes to the ventilation hole. Zorg hits a series of shots in the ventilation hole. At this time, the Mangalore have taken control of the entire hotel and are holding some of the guests in a corner. One of them is beating Blavaguna, who is hiding her in Karan's lap, who is hiding her under the chairs. Now with the stones in his hand, Zorg is putting a bomb in the room and walking straight. In the room of the opera, Ruby is alone with Karan and the diva. And in her last breath, Blavaguna tells him that Karan will help him and save humanity. And she discovers that the racist stones are inside. Tabe brings hope to Zorg when he discovers that the chest is empty and goes back to Fluston Paradise. Karan hits Mangalore and orders Ruby, who is terrified, to put the gun on the head of the alien. Then he opens the D.Va wounds and takes out the 4 stones. He wraps them in his jacket and gives them to Ruby and asks him to protect them with his life. When the Mangalore besiege the area, Karan grabs the gun and kills many Mangalore. Space creatures respond with missiles and they made him hide behind the bar. Ruby flies and runs away from one of the young men. The Mangalore now locks up Karan and forces him to get rest of the aliens, and although many of them start entering the room, Karan holds Ruby and throws a bomb at them, and with the cannons that hit them, they hide under a table and escape from the explosion. They move to the control room, and the remaining Mangalore are holding Cornelius and a few other humans as traitors. And with many of them starting to enter the room, Kerm volunteers and quickly kills the leader with a shot. When the hotel returns under the control of the people, Kerm has to go to the hotel to find the leader. The leader then asks the people to send someone to negotiate. Kerm volunteers and quickly kills the leader with a shot. He found a place for Lilo in the diva room. Cornelius and Ruby go after him to find the bomb. The bells ring and the guests are immediately rescued. The group that took Lilo moved to the area of the Rasus without the Zorg seeing them. Then he goes back to the room where the bomb was planted and stops it at the last moment. The group with Lilo find the Zorg ship and ride it in the room of the hotel room without the ship knowing the last Mangalore living. He activates his bomb and it explodes and kills the ship immediately. Corin, Lilo, Cornelius and Ruby they escape safely on the stolen ship, and on the way to the Earth Lilo gets up and talks to Corin about the human strange. The two share a moment and Corin can't help himself from being attracted, achieving it more. At this time, the fireball accelerates and moves towards the ground at a dangerous speed. The president calls Karan and gives him a final warning. They have about 2 hours before humanity is exhausted, and on his ship, Lilo learns about the violent history of wars in the Middle East. The group is in the desert and David is meeting them, who takes them to the temple center. Corin takes Lilo and puts it on the central tower. With very little time left, the group tries to find out how to activate the weapon. They arrange the stones in their appropriate places, but they have no idea how to open them. Corin tries to save Lilo and asks her how to open the stones, but she only tries to find out how to open the stones in their appropriate places, but they have no idea how to open them. Karan tries to comfort Lilo and asks her how to open the stones, but she can only give a mysterious message, which is a lie. She says the wind blows and the fire burns and the rain falls, but 3 minutes remain to end humanity. David stands in front of a stone and feels desperate. He is terrified, and suddenly the stone and pours sand in it and discovers the stone of the earth. Cornelius then wipes his clothes and opens the stone of water with a rag. David's eyes are on the stone and he sees the stone of water. They gather around the last box. He needs them. In the last moments, Corin announces his love for her and kisses her. When the ball of fire hits the ground on your face, 4 rays of light come out of the stones and hit Layla, and activate the ultimate weapon. A flash of bright light shoots from Layla's body, and stops the ball of fire in its place. Corin grabs her body and feels the tremendous power around him. The light of power subsides after a few seconds. And he makes sure that the ball of fire is destroyed and humanity has been saved. Corin pulls the ball of fire. The night is very exhausting in his room and they are welcomed on the ground as heroes. The president tries to visit them, but the scientists insist that they are not ready now. The film ends and they watch in the interrogation room and Corinne and Leilu are hugging each other, and this is the end of the film and we meet in a new summary. And thanks for watching the